special episode going on right now. We got a mailbag edition episode of the Empty Netters podcast. The third Empty Netter, our boy Jonny Laz, is joining us. We are in the final week of the season. Shit is out of control, so we're hitting you guys with an episode where we're answering all the questions and getting into all the good stuff. Jonny, how do you feel?
I'm just ready for it. I think this whole Eastern Conference race has been dragged on a little too long. I just want to see playoff hockey, and we're right there. So, just ready for it, and can't wait to see what the playoffs have in store.
I couldn't agree more. I also can't get over the fact that none of these Eastern Conference teams, I'll give the Penguins a slight pass, but no one just wants to take it. Mm-hmm. It's so frustrating. Someone just take it and be in the playoffs. I'm looking at you, Detroit. You're killing me.
We've announced teams dead, I feel like 5 times each. Right?
Dude,
like in the last month and a half.
It's unbelievable. The Penguins have been dead 50 times this year, and now they're just more alive than anyone.
I thought this was a Masters mailbag, actually. I feel woefully unprepared to talk puck.
I'm sorry, dude. We're talking puck today.
But I will agree with you guys. I guess it's that third Met spot too. But I was going to say there's no seeding races. Like in the West, there's a ton of these guys could jump so-and-so here. In like the top 3 in the Atlantic, even if you go through Tampa, that's kind of just locked. Top 2 in the Met, locked. It's really those 2 spots. But agree with you big time on the last 3, or 4, I guess, fighting for it. You just wish it'd be a little bit more fun if they were all winning. If they're winning every game, you'd be like, dude, this is a fucking bloodbath to the end. But when no one wants to grab it, it's kind of anticlimactic.
Well, I was going to say with the seeding thing, though, I feel like Tampa was kind of inching closer to Toronto, but Toronto's been playing really well. Like it seemed like because those two, have been battling for third place, right? And it's weird because, I think 5 weeks ago, everyone was like, oh, hope we don't see Florida in the playoffs, right? So it was kind of like, maybe Toronto would let them kind of jump and we get a battle of Florida again. Not that, teams are losing on purpose, but, that battle of Florida was a real possibility and that would have been cool again in the first round. But Toronto really has played so underratedly well, I feel like, in their last 25.
Johnny and Sammy's been great too. It's not, the big boys are buzzing and Nylander's back in the lineup. And yes, Sammy is playing the best hockey he's played all year. So it is a weird.
How many does Matthews have? 66?
I think so.
66.
With 4 left?
Yeah, that sounds right. And they play the Devils tonight, and he has goals in, I think, 16 goals in 17 games in his career against the Devils.
What a stat, dude. That is sick.
It's a gambling guy.
We put up on our YouTube community page a little while ago that something like, Matthew's going to get 70, and if you don't think so, you're an idiot or whatever. Just kind of throwing a fastball out there. And someone commented like, no shot. And I don't know if he's going to get it, but I'm like, no shot, dude.
There's definitely a shot.
Yeah. He could easily pop a hat trick, and he's at 69.
There's a shot, dude.
There's no shot the Sens make the playoffs, but there's definitely a shot Matthews gets 70.
It's like, I don't know about that, bro.
Oh, Christ. All right, well, we got a bunch of great questions from all the fans, all the listeners. We're going to dive right in because there's some great stuff here. This is one of my favorite ones we're starting out with. So our first mailbag question that the 3 of us are going to chop up. Which of the playoff teams or in the playoff hunt do you think has the best 3 to 5 year future?
Okay.
If any of you guys have one that jumps out, go.
I'm thinking.
Wait, which playoff team or team in the playoff hunt?
Yeah. Which of the playoff teams right now or in the playoff hunt? And I think the person phrased it that way because we're going to include on the East, in the East, we're going to include, Detroit, Islanders, Pittsburgh, Washington, like those bubble teams.
Sabres, Devils, or
Sabres. I'm going to include Sabres, Devils. Yeah, sure.
That changes things.
I know.
Yeah, because I think 3 to 5 years it could be the Devils.
Okay, that's your.
Oof. I mean, just looking at these teams now, like I actually think the Devils might be one. I mean, you think about their back end. You have Luke Hughes and Simone Nemetz like playing 25 minutes a night this year. obviously in their
crazy.
first seasons, that's going to pay off in the long run, So
And Johnny, real quick, shout out to Luke, by the way, because when we would do some rookie talk, we would be stroking off, rightfully so, Faber for being right behind Bedard in points, and we were like earlier in the year, especially when Bedard got hurt, we were like Faber could win the Calder. And when you check it now, and Luke's got more points than him, and he's got to get in a ton of time and everything, and running a power play. But shout out to Luke for quietly, catching up, closing that gap, passing him, and having a hell of a rookie season when it was all said and done.
But I do think Faber's been better.
Me too.
Like,
Yep.
But I respect the shout out for sure.
Yep.
I mean, the current playoff teams, I don't think like any of them are really built for 5 years from now.
What about?
I have maybe a boring answer.
Yeah.
Because they're in first place. Dallas is my answer.
Yeah.
I just
Dallas
think
is a good one.
I think Dallas is so good already. They have all of their big young stars locked up. They've got a great netminder, and they're bringing up guys like Maverick, guys like Stankoven, and then they've got the albatross, Jamie Benn, Joe Pavelski, and Tyler Seguin contracts coming off the books in that 3 to 5 year window.
Yeah, and
I'm like,
they're not even that bad. Like Blakey was saying, they're like $9 million. It's not horrible, and they got a couple years. They are very. They did that rebuild on the fly thing.
Yes, they
really
did.
Good.
So I think Dallas is going to be a problem for
what
for
about
the next.
what about Vancouver? What's the contracts? How jammed up are they?
They're up against the cap, but they've got people locked up. Like they're fine.
Yeah, I mean, like I like Vancouver for the next
Definitely.
3 years. Are you kidding me? Like that.
I agree.
They are just beginning to peak, dude.
Yeah.
and that is exciting if you're up in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Do they call that? If you're I guess not in Canada.
Nah.
Because they're the South. They're the Pacific Southwest.
I would get. Yeah.
Yeah, like everyone in Canada is like the Southerners in Vancouver.
Yeah. If we're
I'm
doing
not really a
North America,
geography
though.
guy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Sorry, Dan, but like even Colorado, like Nate's still gonna be Nate 3 years. Kale's gonna be Kale. Random's gonna be like, it's not like they have young guys that are gonna come up and be better, but their core is still pretty much in their prime right now.
Great point.
Absolutely.
Actually.
And then you got that Middlestat trade. The seeing him with a full season in Colorado next year is very interesting.
And doesn't it feel like Colorado, and no knocks on Georgiev, but Colorado and New Jersey, Laz, they feel like if in the next 3 to 5 years that goalie position is improved, then I'm like, oh shit, they're nasty. Like if the Devils get Olmark, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like that could change like that on those teams where some other teams do feel more than one piece away.
Well, the Devils also, everyone had them this year.
Yeah,
Yep.
oh my,
Like-
I did, bro. I was like, they're gonna win the
like-
Met easily. Like,
You know what I mean?
It's so true. I put so much stock in goaltending.
Yeah.
I think if you really want to be a solid team, you need that goaltending. You need a Shesterkin to be like, yep, that's going to be your guy. You need a Swayman or an Olmark. You need a Sorokin. But
Well, can I ask you guys a question after that?
yeah. Well, let me
Yeah.
finish my thought.
Yeah.
There's teams like Detroit. There's teams like Buffalo that I really want to. Just looking at their roster in the forward and defense group, I'm like, these teams could be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't figure out, similar with New Jersey, Johnny, if they don't figure out that goalie situation, I'm not that confident because it's always going to be their Achilles heel, and that's why I look at a team like Nashville, who has definitely done the rebuild on the fly.
Yep.
They've made their way into the playoffs, and whether they lose Saros or not, they've got Askarov right there. They've got so many young studs, and I love what Trotz is doing, and they're another team that I'm like, I think the future looks very bright for them
That's
in
a
the
good
next
one.
3 years. But, Johnny, what was your goalie point you were about to make?
Well, I talked about this with, I think, Rupper. It might have been Dan Rosen as well. I'm trying to remember who it was. It was like 2 weeks ago. But since you guys are Bruins guys, if you're Boston, are you swapping Olmark Swayman in the playoffs every other game?
Such a good question. It's been very interesting. That tough loss against Carolina recently, but the last 6 or so games, I would say that the both of them are buzzing. I'd say Olmark has been playing a little bit better in the last 10 game sample size. I think it would be for a playoff run and a longevity standpoint. I think it would be a mistake to not start Swayman. I think the writing is on the wall. You had trades in place to move Ullmark, and that is just a clear decision that you're going with Swayman. His contract extension is waiting in limbo. I think it would be a wild move to actively go, yeah, we're not going to start you. I think the last 2 years, Ullmark has got the start and has not performed. He got hurt last year. That was a huge factor. But if you look at his numbers, they're not great. I think Swayman is the more mentally tough of the two, and I think he's earned his shot to get a playoffs. If they did go with the no matter what happens, we're going back and forth, I would love it because I think it'd be a wild card move and it'd be interesting to see. It's been their DNA all the last 2 years. I think it's a crazy move, and talking with a lot of the players, including some of the players on Boston, they don't like the idea of that, and I buy into that. I buy into especially in the playoffs. I want to know who's in my net for the haul. I don't want to be dealing with back and forth, and I get that mentality.
I'm so the opposite.
Dude, okay,
dude. From a Moneyball standpoint, I'm with you, dude. I think it's. I would love it, but what I'm saying is, I get the players. I mean, the amount of guys in the league we've asked this to off air who have been like, I would hate that. It's been surprising, but I get it. I get what they're talking about.
Me too, and Laz, I think we're gonna be more aligned. I get that argument of I want to know who our guy is, but I think it kind of goes the other way in the other team. Like, you never quite know who, because someone's got a good glove, someone's beatable low stick. Like, I like that the other team has to wait till the lineups are announced in the morning to be like, who are we getting tonight? And keeping them on their toes. The thing that I find so interesting is the league has morphed into this tandem thing, and teams are getting success with it. The goalie's fresher and all that stuff. That I've been saying, why then keep doing it? But they're like, well, no, the reason we're doing that was to keep our starter fresh to do the playoffs by himself. Like, that's the whole reason the tandem came about. And I'm like, I guess, but just like, isn't he gonna get worn down now? Like, now you're putting him through this grind. It's like, take a fucking day off, dude.
That's what I'm saying, man. They've been in first in the Atlantic all year long, and this is what they've done to get there. Like, why change it now?
It's the DNA.
And to Dan's point, like, yeah, you want to have a guy carry you. Like, you don't want to, give one guy confidence one night and then take it away the next night. But if this is what's been working the whole way here, like we saw it last year, they did it. And then, when shit hits the fan, they kind of go to one guy who's been cold.
Yep.
And if shit hits the fan this year, at least whatever guy has been playing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's I'm not a guy who watches the Bruins a lot. But, every time I do or am paying attention to them, it's, a back and forth battle between Ullmark and Swayman. And if I'm a Bruins fan, I'm like, hey, this is what's been successful. Why not keep it that way? Like, why change it?
I love that take. And that's how I feel and what I meant when I said it's been their DNA for the last 2 years. Yeah. It's clearly gone very well.
But you don't think they learned from last year's playoffs?
Well, here's the thing, dude. Here's the thing that people forget about last year's playoffs. Ullmark was playing very well, and they were up 3-1 in the series, and then he got hurt in that game, and then lost 2 straight, and then was too hurt to play, and Swayman played phenomenally, and was winning until a minute left, and then they got tied up. They tied it up, and Florida won in overtime. So I do think that there's something to learn from last playoffs. The mistake was made after you went up 3-1, you start Swayman. It's to me, that was a no-brainer. But anyway, I would love to see them do this because I think everything you just said is so right. What rattles me is the circus it would be in the media. Because if it goes well, right? Like if they play Toronto in the first round and they go, we're going Ullmark game 1, Swayman game 2, and we're alternating no matter what. If they sweep Toronto, people will go, Jesus Christ is the most genius move in the world. If you go win game 1 with Ullmark in net, lose game 2 with Swayman in net, immediately the fans on Twitter, the media is going to go, okay, well, you go back to Ullmark here, and if Ullmark wins, you have to go with Ullmark in game 4, right? And it's just like...
And imagine if it goes, win game 3 Ullmark, lose game 4 Swayman. People are like...
How could you ever play Swayman? It's just like, it would be such a circus.
I would still do it.
And hey, you know what? Me too. We've been loving the drama this year, and I want more of it, but I just think it would be a sick thing to see. It would be a really cool thing to see. I love it. All right, let's go to our second question. This one has been talked about a lot. Been a huge topic on Twitter recently. MVP discussion. Nate, Cooch, McDavid, Crosby. What are your thoughts on all?
And hey, when we do this,
Wow.
let's live in the world where
Penguins have made the playoffs.
Penguins make the playoffs.
Nope, that's it. We don't want to. We can't set any more parameters because then it
Cooch gets 100
stop
assists.
it. Shut up. Don't listen to him.
Matthews scores 70. And McDavid also gets 100, and Nate has 50 plus and 90 plus.
I mean, you guys are just gonna have me on here and blatantly disrespect Artemi Panarin.
Yes.
Just like such a fucking. Give me a
No.
break. Don't even
Let me
whisper this man's name in the same sentence of these four people.
let me just make one point.
Yep.
Maybe 4 or 5. Why is Cooch such a big argument? Because he's 40 points ahead of the next guy,
Sure.
something like that,
Well, and
Hold on.
leading the league.
Let him go.
and leading the league.
Yep.
Panarin, 40 points ahead of the next guy.
Yep.
The Rangers, first place majority of the season.
Yep.
Could win a President's Trophy. Elevates the team. Tampa, wild card all year long.
Yep.
McKinnon, I get he's been unreal as well. Does he have 50 goals yet?
Yeah.
he does,
Yes,
right?
he did the
Yeah.
other day.
Yeah, 50 goals. And that hat trick was fucking sick. against Minnesota.
Dude, those were the craziest 3 goals I've ever seen. I said that to Dan, but
But-
that made no sense.
Unbelievable. I do think though, and like while half of me is kidding about the Panarin thing, like I do think there should be some consideration of what you do to elevate your team and their success. And I think Panarin has done that the most of anyone until Crosby lately. Maybe McDavid after the first 20 games of
Yep.
the year. Kucherov, they've been, like I said, they've been in the wild card all year. And Colorado's been, first, second, they've kind of gone up and down in that division. But the Rangers have been one since like day one.
Yep.
And it's been Panarin carrying them. I don't think he's getting enough credit for what he's done to their team. But if I'm picking an MVP today, everything I've seen from Nathan McKinnon, it's got to be him. I mean, scoring 50 goals and having like,
Maybe 90, dude. 90 plus.
yeah.
So I love that. To answer your question, the reason I don't
Yeah.
bring up Artemi Panarin's name is because I don't bring up David Pasternak's name. And if you want to make the
Well, I think Pasta deserves credit too.
listen, they're in the top 10, but I think these four guys are just above those two because Pasta's the same way, dude. Like, you want to talk about elevating your team. Pasta is in that same conversation of he has X amount of points more than the next guy, the same as
Yeah.
Panarin does, the same as Cooch does. And I think the star power.
If anything, Pasta deserves more credit than Panarin.
I agree. That's what I was
he's
about
on
to
with
say.
their roster.
Like, you look at the roster that, I mean,
Yeah.
the absolute stars that Panarin is playing with, and then you look at who Pasta's playing with, and you're like, are you kidding me? Like, this is ridiculous. But back to what you said, these other four guys, I just think are on another plane. And I hear the 70 goals. I hear the 100 assists. I am so with Johnny. I said this in January with Chelios. Just looking at Nathan McKinnon, I do think there's a different level. I think he is the MVP of the season.
Okay. One more feather in Panarin's cap, Johnny, which I think is cool.
Yeah,
And-
I'm really like, I don't get why there's not enough love toward Panarin. I think it's insane.
Yeah, one more feather in his cap, I would say, and not that this is part of the voting probably, but it's massive career highs. Pasta did this. Pasta's going to get 50, right, this year probably. He had 61 goals last year. Panarin is like shattering individual records,
Yeah.
PRing everywhere while doing all that stuff too. So I think that's a really cool point.
He's got 116 points. Everyone's acting like he's got like maybe like cracking 100.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh no, he is dominating.
I
Is
don't
he
think
fifth?
anyone's acting like that. I think people.
People are saying McKinnon and Kucherov have so many more points. It's like Panarin still has. He's gonna hit 120.
Is Panarin fourth?
In
Fifth?
points, I think so.
Fourth.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
I
right
mean,
there.
they all have 20 plus points more than him, and
Yeah, but-
around. Listen, I'm with you, dude. Panarin's a machine. He's right in that conversation. But
Well, just one more thing. And CP, I'm so sorry. This is my passion. Right
Yes,
here.
I agree.
Draisaitl also has 104 points with McDavid with that argument.
Yep.
And Rantanen
Rantanen.
also has over 102. The next guy behind Panarin is Trocheck with 76.
That's crazy. Trocheck.
Yeah, I mean, and that was my point. Pasta, I think, has 107, 106 points.
And Marchand has like 68.
Yeah, Marchand has like 68.
Yep.
And then after that, it's like Charlie Coyle with 58. And I'm like, are you joking me, dude?
That's why I think those guys need a little bit more luck. Like you know what I mean?
Agree.
I don't know.
Listen.
I see it differently, I think, than most people, but like
I also want to make it very clear. This was a mailbag question sent in. I didn't make up this question with these four guys.
Yeah.
So
Well, so this is what I want to talk
whoever sent it in.
I want to ask you guys this. The NBA, and they don't execute this perfectly all the time, but technically, if you look it up, the NBA, their definition of MVP is specifically most valuable to their team. It's not who's the best player in the league or who was the best player in the league this year. It's like who was the most valuable to their team. And again, they don't execute it perfectly all the time, in my opinion. But there's a reason that's why it's not just LeBron every year, because they'd be like, yeah, you're the best player. Like, this is stupid. And every time you guys, Johnny, you said if you had to pick right now, McKinnon, you've been on McKinnon for months. The reason I struggle with that, and he's the man, but the reason I struggle with it is he does look like the best, most complete player this year.
Yes.
This season, for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of like, and I think you're saying this in a way, Johnny, I almost like the NBA version of the award more, where I'm like, who was the most valuable player to their team? And that's where you start bringing in the Crosbys, if they make it, the Panarins.
Yeah.
You know, where I'm like, that's a cool award to hand out more so than just like, he was the best this year. He had the best year.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't care who had the best year.
I mean,
You know?
It's hard to measure though.
I know, of course.
it is.
You know?
It totally is.
Although if we're making that argument, McDavid's out of the race because the Oilers ship pumped Vegas last night without him.
Yeah, dude,
true.
he's done. Yeah.
I mean,
He's out. He's out.
One game.
I made this joke last week. If we're going with the barometer of who's the most valuable player to their team, Connor Bedard is the MVP.
Yeah.
Like he is playing with a bunch of grocery baggers.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
But they're in dead
That's a good
last, and
point.
he's a dash 40 though. You know,
It
so I'm
doesn't
like,
matter. He's playing with a bunch of grocery baggers. That's why he's a dash.
But
40.
if they
Or
removed
actually,
him, I was gonna say if they removed him, they're still in dead last. Whereas like if you remove
true. That's
Sid,
true.
the Penguins are in dead last.
and if they removed him, they have 0 goals. So
Yeah.
he is the most valuable player to their team.
Yeah, fair.
But I mean,
no, but I think CP is right there with the standings. I mean,
Sure.
Another argument though would be like, I think I talked about the strength star value, Hellebuck.
Great one,
Yeah.
dude.
Absolutely
Price,
great
you know?
one.
That's a great
Absolutely
one because
great
we haven't seen a goalie since Price. Did he win?
I mean,
Yeah, Price won it. Price
then
won it the
Hasek?
year Jamie Benn led the league with like
82 or
points.
so. Yeah, 87, whatever it was.
something like
dude,
Yeah.
I think Bob is in that same category. Bob's playing 60 games this year for
Yeah,
Florida.
crazy.
Like, that's crazy. But
I love how no matter what question we get, we always just go on tangents.
Yeah, that's true.
It's never just a simple
The mailbag
answer.
question is, "What's up, guys?" And we're like, "It's a great question. Here we go."
We haven't even touched on these four guys. Like, we haven't even talked about Crosby. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But the last thing I'll say, I on that point of the most valuable to your team, to go back to Johnny's point, like, I look at a guy like Trocheck with 70 plus points, and I'm like, a lot of that has to do with Panarin.
Yeah.
I look at, and the reason I love McKinnon is just from the eye test. Austin Matthews might score 70 goals. That's absurd.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But Toronto is in third place in the Atlantic. They're kind of doing what they did last year. They are
little
what
bit
they
worse.
are. I look at McDavid. He might have 100. Cooch. They might have 100 assists. It's unbelievable. They're out of control. But the way McKinnon drags that team to wins, clearly motivates everyone on the ice. You look at a guy like Jonathan Drouin, who's just had a complete rebirth of his career.
Yeah.
Those are the things where I'm like, this dude is the MVP.
Yeah.
That's why I like
Has
him.
Cooch won one? I know McKinnon.
Yes, he has.
Yeah, I think.
No, McKinnon hasn't.
I know.
no,
McKinnon.
sorry.
Oh, you said hasn't?
He was answering Cooch.
Cooch, yes.
Cooch
yeah,
has
Cooch
won
has.
one.
Yeah, I'm
I
fairly
don't know.
certain about that.
I can't remember. Because if Cooch has won one, I bet they give it to Nate. Because he, feels like almost like a what's that Oscar they give out when you've never got one and you're like 80, and they're like, here you go.
Lifetime achievement.
Lifetime achievement Oscar. Like, I feel like they'll just give Nate the MVP this year for not having one yet. Like, come on. Find out if Cooch does.
Cooch has a heart in 2019. Yeah, he won the Art Ross, the Ted Lindsay, and the Hart in 2019. Okay, next question. Playoff question. Playoffs should be 1 through 16. Your thoughts?
Dude, I want to talk about this so bad. You hate it, John.
I don't think so.
Why,
I think
dude?
there's something. I just think there's something great about the Eastern Western Conference And I think that takes away from it if you do 1 through 16. And plus, like I think the travel has a lot to do with it too, right? Like you could play a team, let's say, it could be Rangers Kings first round, and then that just kills a team for the second round with all the travel if you're going 6-hour flights every night. So I don't know. I mean, I am, I'm all for new ideas and I love being creative with stuff, but there's also some things where I just like the way it's done and I don't want to see it change.
So or go ahead.
No, please. You're passionate about
yeah, because this is my Panarin MVP, Johnny. I need this so bad.
This is your Panarin.
This is it. So, dude,
I'm excited.
Let me read you the matchups too, just because this would be cool if we did it. All right. Rangers Islanders, 1 versus 16. Stars Blues, 2 versus 15. Canes
Blues.
Yeah. Well, dude, this is my argument. Like the core of my argument is the Caps are 17.
The Blues aren't even in the playoffs.
This is the core of my argument. The Caps are 17. The Penguins are 18.
I see what you're saying.
Like,
okay, you're getting rid of both conferences. No matter
I'm like,
what.
why are the top 16 teams not in the playoffs? It is baffling to me. They're like, congrats, Washington, you got in, and I'm like, the Blues are much better than you, and they're out.
I misunderstood. I thought it was still like the divisions and the wild cards, and then you just do 1 through 16. I didn't realize it was like
no, like bro,
16th place in the league gets in.
Yeah.
Oh, that changes things.
Like, give me 1 through 16. Like the top 16 teams in the league, should get in. It's insane. They're like, well, you guys, your conference was worse this year, so even though you were only 500, you get in, and we're sending home the team that's 60-20, and I'm like, what, dude? So,
no, that's different.
I want to see that so bad. The travel. I'll read them. Canes, Vegas, Kings, Bruins. Tough one there with travel.
It's about as bad as it gets.
Nashville Canucks, bad. Colorado, Tampa, Florida, Toronto, sick. That'd be cool. Winnipeg, Edmonton. That'd be cool. My point is this, dude. The travel is a grind. We f***ing lived it last Cup Finals in that long travel, and we're not even playing, and we were about how tired we were. So I get it, but they're on sick flights and with treatment, like it's not that bad is my point. The reason conferences started and divisions started in the first place when all these pro leagues were formed is because of travel, because you were training and shit. So they were like, let's just keep everybody close. Now you're in private jets. I'm like, who cares? And dude, this is kind of a bullshit excuse for me, but like Nashville's in the Western Conference. Like there's some shit travel already. Like if it's Nashville Kings first round, they're like, me, dude, like what the heck, you know what I mean? So it's not like they don't travel anyway. There's some long flights built in already, and I just, dude, give me the 16 best teams and then play in order of 1 to the bottom and then move your way up.
Listen, we love chaos. Empty Netters loves chaos. That's a bit chaotic, and I think it's chaotic in a good way. I really do love the idea of it's the 16 best teams. That is cool. But if you were to do this, you have to do out with everything. You need to completely get rid of the divisions and the conferences in a sense, because if you want it to be truly fair, the schedule needs to be just a complete roll around of everybody.
Well, yeah. Because the East and West only play each other twice a year.
Exactly. So like that needs to change. Like it needs to be, you cannot do this with the same schedules, because for example, if the East is much stronger by and large than the West in a given year, then you're going to have an East team in the playoffs that might have a worse record than one of the West teams, but it's because the West team is playing a bunch of powder puff teams in comparison.
Yep.
So you would need to do out with that.
I think that's, and obviously you can't, the math would be hard trying to do like you play everyone 3 times.
Yeah,
like
it couldn't work with an 82 game schedule. You'd have to change that too if you wanted it to be like play everyone the same amount of times. Like that. I
do think there'd be, I'm going to work on this for you guys. I do think there would be a way to you don't play everyone the same amount of times, but there's like a rotation. You know how like the NFL does like, this year you play that conference, like the AFC East plays the NFC East. The next year they play the NFC. Like I do think there could be some kind of rotation built in, and you wouldn't play everyone the same amount of times for sure. But I'd be like, well, them the breaks, dude. That was the way this year broke for you, and this is who got it.
That would be fine. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying the current schedule does not work.
I'm gonna work on this.
I think the compromise, and I'm not I'm not reinventing the wheel. It's just so obvious to go back to 1 through 8.
Yeah.
Like it's so obvious.
It's tricky because I like it's fun, when it's like, I don't want good teams to go away, but when it's like, dude, it's Vegas, Edmonton, round 1, I'm like, here we go. You know, it did exactly what they wanted it to do, I guess is my point. Like they were like, we want to create these like massive in-division, massive rivalries in round one. And they get it every year.
But what I said very recently is I think the disaster of this is sure, you get that, but now all the best matchups are gone after round one. And the best teams are getting knocked out after round one. And that's moronic.
I think, does round two feels like the only round that suffers though? Because by the conference finals, it's a sick matchup again, unless there's a Cinderella team, and then in that case, good for them.
Yeah.
I think it's like it does. Like in my opinion, last year the Eastern Conference Final was Boston, Florida.
And what was it actually?
It was round one.
No, who did Florida play?
Carolina.
Carolina, yeah, and they pumped.
And they got swept.
But Carolina was sick last year. Like that's Carolina. Like on paper,
Carolina
should have been
is
there.
so much better this year.
Oh, for sure. But
And I think Boston would have shit pumped Carolina last year. I think Florida, Boston.
Are
was
you just saying that though because Florida won?
yeah,
No, because once at the beginning of that season, we all thought Florida would be good, and then their goaltending sucked dick until the playoffs.
Yeah.
The playoffs showed up, and Bob went like this.
Till
By
game
the way,
5, dude.
I'm Bob again, and then things changed, and I just think that was the Eastern Conference Finals, and yes, it's.
But that's another one, dude. I heard.
We got to move on.
Yeah, I just sometimes last thing I'll say on this. Sometimes I get rattled with people about this playoff format when it almost would have happened anyway. Like Florida was a wild card team last year. Boston would have played them first anyway. Like they were 8. That was the 1-8.
Yeah,
no matter what.
That's fair.
This year, I heard Witt on Chicklets being like, "It's ass that Boston gets Tampa first," and I'm like, "Agree. I don't want Tampa at all." But Boston is 2, Tampa's 6. Like
7,
it wouldn't be. But if we did it 1-8, they'd be 6.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, they almost would have got him anyway in the 1-8. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's easy to. But
To
they
me,
don't miss that often.
To me, it's the 2-3 that's stupid.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
right,
that's hard.
Right now, like Florida,
Toronto,
right? Like I'm like, that's bullshit. I don't like that. Similar topic, just a perfect segue. Next question is, what do you guys think could be some of the best first round matchups that we're seeing? Obviously, we don't know. Some of them are more or less locked in. But what do you guys think some of the best ones could be?
I mean, I'm still hoping for Rangers Islanders. I need Pittsburgh or Washington to jump the Islanders for third in the Met. Have the Islanders drop to the second wild card, and then we get it. I mean, that'd
be awesome,
obviously
dude.
pretty biased on my part.
Are you sure you want that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I just listen. Like, even if the Devils won last year, like being not only being able to go to all 7 games and cover it because it was so easy to travel, like just
good point.
Feeling hockey in this area like at its full peak was awesome, and. There's this Ranger Islander novelty or whatever you want to call it about this rivalry that's gone on for so long. But like in my lifetime, it hasn't really been that crazy because like both teams have never really been that good at the same time. So I think this would be somewhat of like a rebirth of it. So I'm rooting for that one. But, as far as like other ones go, I mean, in the West, like, I'd love to see Edmonton and Vegas if Vegas can jump.
Dude,
LA.
okay, that's what I was right about to ask you. Do you want Edmonton Vegas or Edmonton LA? You want Vegas?
I mean, I just think that was such a fun series to watch last year. And I'd hate for Vegas to like lose in the first round and not see it at all.
I know, dude. That was my only thought about that. Where I was like, I guess even though I just argued against this, losing one in Edmonton Vegas right away is tough. But that would be lit. I think the LA people around here. Certainly Blakey wants the Oilers in the first round for the Kings just because it's like, let's run it back again. They want to take them down, I want, but I'm not going to get it. I want Boston, Toronto so bad in the first round. It would take Florida jumping the bees, but it's not going to happen, I don't think. The one I've been salivating about, dude, and Vegas is going to have to wake up if it's going to happen, but is Dallas, Nashville in the first round.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Just because, like, I don't know, those feel like such similar vibes in those places. Dallas looks so good.
Did you guys talk about that in like a recent episode?
Yeah,
or
just this
something?
past episode, right? I said it'll be interesting how Dutchy feels about that one.
Yeah,
Get bought out, then bang, 30-goal season, playing amazing with Dallas, and that's a tough customer for Dallas.
Oh my
dude.
God,
like that's a team I do not want to play. So that would be wild. Mine is definitely Vegas, Edmonton.
Really?
Like
Yeah.
I'm truly desperate for that.
Dude, it will be crazy.
Because I think Vegas will beat them, and it will be the drama and storylines of Edmonton losing in the first round are going to keep my cock hard for months.
Dude, I said a week ago, I was like, Vegas was going on a 4-game, I think maybe 3-game road trip, 1 game at home, and my saucy prediction was they were like, here we go. This is when Vegas wakes up. They're going to go 4-0 on this rip. They went 3-0-1. They lost an OT, and it was the game to Nashville that they were up 4-0 or whatever. But, even though I had to eat a hot wing for it, I was like, I was right. Like, Vegas snapped into form. Now let's rock. And then now they've dumped 3 straight. They got spanked by the Oilers last night without McDavid. And I started to be, I think I put it up on YouTube. I was like, damn, I'm a little concerned that they are just going to be snapping ready. But now I'm going to rationalize everything. I almost think this can help because I saw a bunch of Cassidy quotes after where he was like, that's embarrassing. Yeah. And, sometimes you just need that. Those boys need that to be like, all right, dude, figure it out.
I'm prepared to eat crow, but I've been saying it for weeks now. I truly don't think Vegas gives a flying about any of these games. It means nothing to them.
What do you think about that, Laz?
I mean, I don't know if they don't give a but they're still missing Pietrangelo on the back end.
Yep.
Like Hurdle's played 2 games.
Yeah.
Stone's out.
Stone's out. Like they're not really, their peak of themselves. It's hard to sit here and say that teams don't give a right? Like
I'm obviously not saying that the players are
course. I know.
whatever. I'm saying when the fan base
no need to be concerned
is going like this, guys. Like we get
bad.
DMs every day. It's like, guys, Vegas. Like I'm concerned. They are not concerned.
Same with Florida, by the way. We
Is
get
what
so
I'm
many
saying.
messages about that. Like, should we be worried about the Panthers? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you also want to feel good going into the playoffs, right?
No doubt. No doubt.
I don't know if you're Vegas if you feel great right now.
Yeah. Very true.
I think the thing they cling to is that they're missing 3 of their top 8 players.
Dude, defending cup champs, or if it's defending cup champs or McDavid out in the first round, that'll be
crazy.
Appointment television.
It'll be crazy. Jonny, you're going to take the lead on this one.
Oh boy.
Next question. What are your thoughts on the Pelech Mika collision? Will Rempe seek retribution in the next matchup?
Honestly, I'm so sick of this already. I think it was an accident. Both guys came out and said in their quotes after morning skate today, Pelech said it was accidental. If you saw the video of me after, my body language was apologetic. I didn't want to hurt him. And Mika was like, I'm not going to sit here and assume that he did it on purpose. It was probably accidental. Everyone on the ice is responsible for where they're looking for their awareness. Pelech was following the play. Sure, maybe he turned into it a little bit, but I don't think he did it maliciously. And Mika has to keep his head up when he's skating to the bench, and know where the players are. These collisions happen all the time. I've been in plenty of them myself. It's just something that happens. And do I think they're going to go after Pelech in the next game? No, Mika's perfectly fine. He's playing tonight, so
and thank God, by the way,
big deal. Yeah. And again, I don't think for example, Rempe scratched tonight, and I think if you put him in Saturday, you're just creating this own narrative yourself. If you don't play Rempe and you don't feel the need to respond, then you just play the game, let the game take care of itself. And then it's not this big circus that if you do put Rempe in, it will be. But again, that's also another side story too, because the Rempe thing, I still think he should be playing these games, because at some point you're going to look to him to create some energy in the playoffs. And by sitting him in all these games, you're not, I don't think you're teaching him anything. I think you should be putting him in these games and letting him be accustomed to these situations so that when the games do matter more, he's a little bit more comfortable in his own skin and on his own skates. So I don't know. I know there are some people who disagree with me and some people who agree with me. I don't think Rempe plays game 1 in the playoffs, but I do think at some point the Rangers are going to need a little boost of energy and a little bit of life. And you're going to look to him, and he's not going to have that comfortability of playing playoff hockey under his belt, and he might do something stupid. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm happy you started with me, but and I got a little off topic. The Pelech Zibanejad thing couldn't have been more incidental, and I'll leave it at that.
Dude, I want you to hear you weigh in on the Pelech thing a little bit, but I just want to say in that Rempe point, Jonny, I thought that was a fantastic take because where you ended, because I was like, yeah, you're right. It would be nice for him to get some burn on these last games of the year here where it kind of feels like a playoff atmosphere and stuff. But I thought you were implying And then when he gets out there, he might shy away from his game because
No.
he hasn't been there. But I think your point is so sound and spot on. And we've seen, and I'm not even chirping Rempe. My opinions are my opinions on him. But we've seen him we've seen him cross that line, right? Where it's like, hey, dude, calm down. And that hurts you so bad in the playoffs. There's completely different players, but think about Kadri, like 2 years in a row on the Leafs. When you're just trying to be energetic and it's like bang from behind and now you're sussied, like that.
This is a little. I don't know if that's a fair comparison.
Well, it's not unfair.
What are you talking about? The guys get both players get suspended like it's their job.
But I think
Kadri's a much better player.
I'm joking.
Yes, no, it hurts the Leafs more to lose Kadri than Rempe. But I'm just saying, you don't want guys out there taking 3-game suspensions in the play. That's not the energy we're looking for, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And kind of getting those reps in now would be super helpful. So I thought that was a great point. But Dan,
well, I was just basically saying the emotion of the playoffs. It's hard to control your emotions in big games like that. So if he learns to just like play the game and not think about the extracurriculars like in these next 3 games, come playoff time in the first 10 minutes of a game, he's not like just all like jittered up and shit.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
boom. I just can't control myself.
Coach Chippy had a hilarious video. I don't know if you guys saw
I gotta watch it. That's funny.
Oh, so good. Like Rempe in the locker room getting ready to play the Islanders, just like him like punching. It's so funny.
That's great.
But Dan, what do you think?
I have almost nothing to add. I think, Johnny, you said it perfectly. I think it's so hilariously overblown. And I love when players come out and say the things that the two of them said. They were like, it was a collision, man. Like, whatever.
But I get what Laviollette's doing, too, though, because, like, the end of the game, Trocheck gets clearly hit from behind, no call. Like, I think the emotions were just high, and that was the question that was asked, and he responded with a lot of emotion.
Yep. No problem with Labs at all. What I have a problem with is the idiot mouth-breathing moron fans on Twitter who are doing things like, taking a screenshot of the moment of collision and being like, look at Pelech's legs. This is clearly a malicious act. He should be suspended 10 games for this. I'm like, those are the type of people I'm like, you make hockey bad. Yeah. You should be suspended from Twitter. You should be suspended from life. You're a moron. And I can't, I love passion, but it's shit like that just drives me insane. It's like, dude, let the players be the ones to dictate how we should feel about this to an extent. And the two of them have been so mature and smart about it that I'm like, it's done, dude.
Yep.
Let's move on. So I think that was perfectly said by you, Johnny. Moving on to the Red Wings. If the Red Wings miss playoffs, should Lalonde be worried about his job?
Absolutely not, in my opinion. Dan had said in a few weeks back that it's worse if the Red Wings miss the playoffs than if the Flyers do, even though the Flyers have been in all year. And I actually buy that take because of what the Flyers are going through and how the Red Wings multiple times, I'm pretty sure, have controlled their own destiny as recently as this Caps loss. But I think before that, they were kind of on a heater. So I do think they are bumped. I didn't pick them to make the playoffs this year. On a zoomed out 35,000 foot view, if they just miss the playoffs, I still don't think this was a bad season for them. They look good. They're still trending in the right direction. So for me, yeah, dude, if they miss, did you hit some bumps in the road at the end there when you had a chance to grab it at home against the Capitals? Yeah, it sucks, but there is no need for a new voice in that room, in my opinion. And that's usually what this comes down to. I think we've said this on the pod many times. It's rarely, when there's a coaching change, it's rarely an X's and O's problem. It's a voice. It's a lost the locker room problem. Just needed some new energy in there. So to me, there's no issues in that Red Wings room, I don't think. So even if they miss, I'm good. I
agree. Also, you get a full year with Patrick Kane next year.
Yeah, dude.
He wasn't there in the first half of the year. I don't know if you guys saw my Kane take on Twitter that I got absolutely ripped for.
I couldn't believe people got on you for that.
Wait, what was it again?
I could because Ranger fans are Ranger fans, but
yeah, true.
What?
What'd you say again? I saw it, but I can't remember.
I was like, the Ranger fan in me would hate it, but the hockey fan would think it's sick if Patrick Kane scored an overtime goal at MSG against the Rangers in the playoffs, which I stand by.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if you guys had saw that and if you had an opinion on it.
I like I said, I completely agreed with you. You're right. Rangers fans are going to Rangers fan, but I thought it was a correct.
It's a good one.
Rangers fan are going to Rangers fan. thought it was a correct take. I agree with you both. I don't think Lalonde will be or should even be considered to be fired. I do think I think that the Red Wings, first of all, they hope they have Kane for next year. Kane is not signed. I think he's going to re-sign.
Yep.
No doubt, but that's up in the air. The Red Wings have overachieved this year per what most people thought they would do.
The median prediction.
I thought that they would be in this playoff picture. So this collapse is a bad look. And who knows? They might still get in. But this really bad stumble over the last 3-4 weeks now it is bad. It is like no question about it, bad. And I think some of that is on Lalonde. I think some of it's on the players. So it's just they could taste playoffs they were in.
Yeah.
And now they've completely collapsed and people are being like, someone has to pay for this. But it's one of those situations where Stevie Y and ownership's going to be like, everyone calm down. Like we're ahead of schedule on paper. So yeah, I don't think I don't think his job's in jeopardy, but I do think that this has been an embarrassing 4 weeks.
Yeah. On the Kane thing real quick, Johnny, I happily admit I am a very what's the adjective here? Spiteful maybe. Sports fan, in that when a team beats me, some fans, when a team beats you, they go, I hope they win now. I hope we lost to the champs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I hope they lose immediately. I hope they get swept immediately. Those guys. And it lingers for years, dude. I hate the Blues still, because I'm like, they beat me in the cup that one time. And I had that lingering stuff about the Kaner Hawks after that Bruins Cup. And, he was such a fun, exciting American player. So it was like, that was still sick. But I was like, whatever, dude. Like I'm done with Patrick Kane and Taze and all those boys. And then,
sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say when he went to you guys and he's like got the hip thing and like then he got the surgery and there was like a real chance that he might not play again. I started to feel bad. I was like, oh man, I didn't want it to go out this way. So I'm not particularly rooting for the Red Wings. I certainly, if they play the Bruins, I'm certainly going to be rooting for the Bruins. But goddamn, dude, as the hockey fan, like you said, has it been fun as shit to watch Kane buzzing around this year, 6 cellies scoring from everywhere on the ice. Like that has been really cool.
It's so funny though. You just made me think of this, like how I am as a fan, and I get shit on for like my fandom all the time. But there are so many different kinds of hockey fans and sports fans in general, right? Where like, Chris, you're like, if you beat my team, it's like, F you. Like, I don't want to see you win. I'm always like, when my team loses, I'm like, F you to my own team. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm
same,
like,
dude.
Like the Rangers lose to the Devils last year in 7. I'm like, seriously, guys? Like, what the f are we doing here?
That's so good.
It's like, I have no hatred toward anyone else but my own teams that I root for. And I've been a Rangers fan and Knicks fan my whole life. It was like the only 2 teams that I really root for, like baseball and football. I don't really care about. And I haven't gotten into soccer yet. I'm sure you guys are going to try to make me do that at some point. But but the Knicks, like, they constantly beat themselves. The Rangers, it feels like they beat themselves. So I just always am like, we beat our, like, you guys.
Yeah.
So,
oh, dude,
fandom's different everywhere.
I'm mother our own team more
awful.
than anyone. It's unreal. Like,
but you've seen some winners though. I feel like.
That's
true.
Oh
my God, we get spoiled as shit.
But the losses, the losses hurt more. That's the funny thing about being Boston fans is, yes, we've won a lot, and I'll never sit here and be like, oh no, it's so hard. But they've lost a lot too. It's like,
losing in the finals blows so bad.
It's brutal.
Crazy.
All right, next question: who is the most slept-on contender going into the playoffs?
Good one. And I think
my answer might surprise you guys.
Go ahead.
I feel like we're on the same wavelength here.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm thinking what you're thinking.
Yeah. I hesitate to say it because calling them a contender with all the history is funny. I think it's Toronto.
Oh, never mind.
No. Okay, good.
Opposite wavelengths.
They're awful.
Yeah. Let me clarify. I do not think Toronto's going to win.
Right.
But I think their play, to what you said earlier, Johnny, and their performances of late has been very slept on.
Dan,
they've been very good since the All-Star break. They have a 70 goal scorer on the team. Samsonov is playing very well. I think they're slept on in that regard. And the reason I hesitate is because given that this says contender, I'm like, I don't really consider them a contender. But I do just want to give them their flowers and that they are not some slouch team right now coming into, like, they're winning big games. They're beating good teams. So I'm just giving them their credit there. That's maybe not my only answer, but I do just want to give them some love.
Well, dude, I'll say this.
I feel like saying Toronto slept on is just a crazy comment.
But wouldn't you say
you agree that they're not?
No, I agree. I
talked
agree, but
about
they're the
right
most
now.
talked about team in the NHL always.
Yeah. But
I don't
not to win
agree
this
right
year.
now.
Not to win this year. They're just talked about because they're the media. But like in the NFL season this year, and they won, so I'm not saying Toronto's going to win either. But around like week 10, I was like, oh, the Chiefs are done. Like they can't win this year because they just have too many problems. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we were in the playoffs, and I was like, oh wait, could the Chiefs win? I feel that way about Toronto. Like,
but they've won before.
Yes, fair. And I don't think Toronto can win. But 20 games ago, I did literally write off Toronto's season this year. I was like, oh yeah, whatever. But so I do agree.
You can still do that.
Because I still think they're going to lose in the first round, which is hilarious.
Same. That's the.
But I'm like, oh
Me
man,
too.
they didn't get enough credit. Laz, were you going to say the Canes?
Yeah, you can guess. Huh?
Were you going to say the Canes?
Nope.
Carolina? No. Carolina is interesting to me because how good you guys are. Like, the Rangers are just running that division, and, like, it feels like, well, certainly they're going to the Eastern Finals.
Oh, dude.
And I'm like, Carolina's pretty
Carolina's
good.
so
Carolina's
good.
Carolina's been there every step of the way. The Rangers just beat them that one game and created that little separation, but Carolina's been winning same exact amount, basically.
Yeah.
And then I feel like...
Well, Johnny, give us yours.
Give us yours.
Mine is, I feel like it's every year. It's Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
I've been saying
you
it
love
for
Tampa.
Fuck, that is a good one.
They have been to the Cup 3 out of the last 4 years, and
it's ridiculous.
Again, somehow, maybe this is crazy to say, and I talked about it on Morning Cup of Hockey yesterday, and I get shit on all the time because I'm always like, this guy is this in the NHL, like whatever. That's like a thing that I do.
Yeah.
Steven Stamkos is the most underrated player in the NHL.
Dude, I just said to Dan the other day.
He's about to score 40.
He's gonna score 40.
Wait, are you? I can't tell if you're with us because that.
I'm dead curious.
We have been banging that drum literally all season. When the contract shit happened this summer, we were like, what the is Tampa doing, dude? Like, this guy had 80 points, or I think maybe higher.
Yeah.
He had
He had 106 2 years ago and had over a point a game last year.
Yeah, he had over a point per game last year. I think it might have been 83.
How many points do you have right now? You keep talking. I'm going to look it up.
But we were like, what the is going on? Why is everyone being like, yeah, Stammer's washed? He's so good. And yeah, he's going to have 40 goals this year. It's crazy, dude. Absolutely crazy.
And it's every year. And this year we're saying Kucherov is the MVP, and no one's talking about Tampa being a cup contender when they have Vasilevsky and Hedman, I think Hedman's over a point a game too.
Hedman has one more point, or maybe it was before their last game, but Hedman had one more point than Stammer. And I was like, dude, these guys are absurd.
Stammer, 39 goals, 38 assists, 77 points in 75 games.
Yeah,
what's Braden Point have? He's got to be up there too.
Braden Point has, in 77 games, has 44 goals, 42 assists, 86 points.
Yeah. Not to mention,
what are we doing here?
And
Hagel's disgusting. Sorelli's disgusting.
Hedman, 76
Claire's
points
been awesome
in 75.
since they got him at the deadline.
And that was such a good signing, dude. That was such
what'd you say just now?
Trade.
Hedman, 76 points in 75 games.
That's another one, dude. People sleep on Hedman. So like when we did our top 10 rankings, people were like, Hedman too high. And I was like, dude, Hedman, when you consider the all-encompassing, there's an argument that Hedman is the best defenseman in the league still. And it's not even, I don't even think that's debatable. I mean, like, that dude is a freak. After I've given my love to Toronto, that I just like to give them a pat on the back sometimes.
Yeah.
This similar to what I said about them earlier. This might get laughs from you guys again. I think Dallas is in this conversation.
They slept on.
They're slept on, dude.
Because of Colorado?
People talk about Colorado,
Yeah.
they talk about Edmonton and McDavid, and they talk about Vegas because Vegas is Vegas.
Yep.
But Dallas is just first in that division. They have
They're deep, dude. They're
top
deep.
4 defensemen in the league. They have an insane amount of depth. Ben and Sagan are playing middle 6 roles, and they both have over 50 points. Dutchy is insane for them this year. Like, they are very, very real.
Yep.
And I think they're often like the 4th team in the West that's talked about.
Can I just say one more thing about Tampa?
Always.
Sorry.
Yes, you can.
No, sorry. I totally tuned you out there for a second just because I had this kid, Sam Len, reach out to me on LinkedIn, and he sent me an article that he wrote. And he made a really good point that we're all talking about, the 70 goals, 100 assists, joining Gretzky, Lemieux, or So Sam pointed out that Kucherov could become the third player ever to provide 50% of their team's offense after Gretzky and Lemieux, and nobody's talking about that.
Wow,
which is
dude.
crazy.
And is that's they take all the team's goals and then count how many you scored or assisted on?
I believe so. Yeah, Sam sent me like a whole message on LinkedIn and like is very passionate about it. I've never met him. I don't know him.
Yeah.
But I read it. I like looked into it and it's pretty crazy. Look, like I Kucherov, maybe he's not like this. I don't want to say he's not like the sexiest player. Like he's so good. It looks effortless.
He is sexy too. Yeah, because it's so
He
casual.
I mean, like I don't know what the word is for it. Like he doesn't have that like McDavid like horse about him.
You know what I think it is, Johnny?
You know?
Sorry to interrupt, but because
Yeah.
I've felt the same way. I think he just doesn't have the same explosiveness that Nate
That's what it
and
is,
McDavid
right? That's
did.
got to be what it is.
Yeah.
I
really
agree.
think that's the differentiator.
Mm-hmm. He's more like a Panarin than he is a McDavid or McKinnon.
Definitely.
But it's like almost, you know how they always say like great Greg Maddux, like the great pitchers. It wasn't like they could throw 101. It was that they went the other way. They would like slow it down and place it perfectly. That's like the Kucherov to like, McDavid and McKinnon are Randy Johnson, 101 on the black. Kucherov's Greg Maddux. He goes slower.
Yeah, it's interesting how McDavid every now and then will just sheer skating speed his way to a goal. McKinnon will sheer brick shithouse like power his way to a goal. And the way Kuch and Panarin just like see the ice and make an insane play, just buttery through the zone, behind the back spin pass that's just on someone's tape on the doorstep is like, good Lord.
Dude,
how is that?
Kucherov beats Grand Theft Auto playing as a pedestrian.
For real, dude. For real.
And I was going to add right there, I was saying this to Dan coming in today. I loved, do you see the player poll that came out? They do that player poll every year and it's like
The NHLPA one?
Yeah. Dude,
Yeah.
I get so fired up with that every year when it's like, a lot of new faces and cool shit to see what the players think. And I just love it every year, dude. They're like, who's the most complete player? And they're like, Sid.
Crosby.
And I'm like, yes.
Crosby.
Like it just where everyone's like, we get on the Nate train, the McDavid train, the Cooch train, and then you ask the players and they're like, Sid.
But it is so funny, especially with this next gen. It's like the 20 guys 26 and younger. You could even maybe go up to like 27, 28. Every single one of them, they're like, who's your favorite player? And they're like, I watched Sid growing up.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're all the ones voting. So as long as Sid still lives, they're like,
That's
Sid.
true.
They're just going to give Sid votes.
That's funny.
So funny. All right, last two questions. The last one is kind of a fun one, discussion one that I like. This next one is just one more about a team that I was curious about. Realistically, what do you think the Kings need to do to be real contenders next year? Trades, free agents, coach, etc.
To be contenders next year?
Yes.
Goalie comes to mind immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And I really feel like that could change so much. You put in one grade A goalie on that team, and I'm like, they're scary.
I mean, you guys know better than me what drastically changed this year because they were contenders in December.
Dude, that's interesting because the season for the Kings started and everything was on Phoenix Copley. It was, can Phoenix Copley be the guy that he looked like he was at the end of the season and make this team a contender? Because they had the PL trade, had some good depth. Guys like Anderson were coming up. Jordan Spence was in the wings coming up. He's been amazing. QB, is he going to make the jump? All of those things happened, and then Phoenix struggled. And Cam Talbot came out of the clouds as I think 38-year-old and just like stole the first half of the season for them. And what's interesting, it wasn't even Talbot that led them on the skid. It was weird little injuries, some players kind of falling asleep. And I think a lot of it was their pregame prep and their setup. And we obviously saw that leading to a coach firing, which is always terrible to see. I'm with you though, Chris. The Kings do feel like they're missing something, and I think the biggest thing is consistency, but I don't think that team can go into next season with Talbot as their goalie. So I think a huge trade needs to be made. I look at Saros. That's a guy the Kings have looked at for 4 years now. If they can do that in some way, get a goalie that's their goalie, that's step one. And I say this, not naming names, players in that locker room are very bullish on this. they need to hire a coach, and they need to not go with an interim guy or a placeholder. They need to do their due diligence, do some good interviews, and find a coach that's going to be the coach for the next 6 years. Like, you need to see out the end of Kopitar and Doughty with the same coach.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing for this Kings team.
I like that. I like that take.
I don't really watch them that much, to be honest.
Dude, the biggest drop, Johnny,
far
was
away.
there was that crazy Dewey interview, not crazy, but actually very
The
candid.
1-3-1?
No, way before, when they were in hell. You know, when he was like, it was everyone thought it was get a cookie night and no one's playing for each other. You know, like that. Those were the dark days, and I just think, and I strongly believe that attitude has changed. But it's not like there's a ton of new people in that room, you know. So it's the biggest thing for me is goalie. Get a coach you're happy with. You don't need to like break the mold and find some genius. You just need a coach you're happy with, and make sure that locker room is working in the same direction.
Yeah.
Because and that's true for every team, obviously, but specifically this team with the pieces they brought in and whatever, when that falls apart, they're in big trouble.
No doubt. Okay, last question for the boys. Very curious to hear what you guys have to say about this. Does variety in left shot versus right shot players matter to a roster, particularly on defense?
Okay. Dude, remember what was it like 2 years ago when there was like no left shot D?
Yeah, it was
Do you
insane.
They were like, oh God, everyone's giving up a first rounder for a left shot D. And I was like, what
do you
happened? It was so crazy. Like, there was just none in the league to be had. And I'm like, this makes no sense.
I could think of like 5 off the bat that are elite. Hedman, Quinn Hughes, Roman Josi, Miro Heiskanen, Devontae's, who else am I missing? There's got to be more, but
There is, but I
plenty
think
more.
it was like everyone has their one. Or, you know, like there's a bunch of guys that they have their one, but people were looking for more left shot D to fill out the bottom.
What Chris is referring to is
four.
like, it was like 3 years ago. It was at the trade deadline. It was
Yeah.
a huge topic of discussion. So
Got it.
yes,
I
there
don't
was
remember that.
there was a bunch of left shot D in the league, but as far as like available
Yeah.
and for like your second pairing, it felt like a huge hot commodity, and that was true.
beats me.
I
Was
always,
this about defensemen or in general?
in general,
yeah.
in general.
Okay.
I am not entirely sure what my take is on this, because there's part of me that thinks it doesn't matter. If you've got guys like, for example, Ovi, who is a right shot who prefers to play on the left side, that's great. You know, do your thing. I know Nick Lidstrom at times like to play his offhand. So if you've got guys who play that side and they're comfortable and effective, I don't think it really matters. That said, there are times where I'm watching the game or when I've been on the ice, and whether it be a funny shift change, a power play situation, and you look around and there's 5 right shots on the ice, every now and then I do find myself being like, this isn't the best.
Yeah.
When you're set up in the offensive zone, particularly on a power play, and you don't have a single other shot, there are times where I think it can be not very effective. It doesn't really help the flow, but it's never been a thing that if I were crafting a team that I were too focused on.
All I'll say is this. Power play, I agree.
Yeah.
Power play, I do think it's important to make sure you have, if you're running an umbrella or whatever, you want some one-timers. I don't give a on forward. Like, if it's the forwards, I'm like, you could have 3 right shots because it's an OV on the left wing, 3 left shots. Truly, I don't care, because I think when you're breaking it out and you're trying to get pucks off the boards, it's not that hard to go either hand or kind of like loop back. There's just you got a lot of options. The only thing I do think it matters, and it's not like make or break, I just if you care, is being on your strong side on D, lefty on the left side, right D on the right, or right shot on the right D side, when you're trying to keep pucks in. Like when pucks are zipping around the boards trying to get out and you're trying to get there, if that's on your forehand, it's so much easier to just get that back, smash that back in, or even get one on net than it is if you're always trying to pull it off the wall and then get it in.
Yes.
That's where I think it can matter.
Yeah, as someone who played defense in my day, I hear that. Like, I think that is a thing. I think that's why right shot, left shot D will often play the right and the left side. And it is big for those in the offensive zone. You're getting the puck up around the boards on your forehand. I understand, however, myself, I played lefty plenty. I think there's something that's better about grabbing that puck on my backhand and then being able to walk on my forehand towards the net or walk the blue line. Whereas the other way, you're kind of going backwards across the blue line, dragging the puck.
Yeah.
So there's benefits and downsides to be had on either, but I just thought it was an interesting discussion because it is, it's not something like, I don't think any of the three of us were like absolutely, you know what I mean? That's what I found interesting.
No, I have a couple of thoughts on it. Something interesting, like this year, for example, there's always been talks of Lafreniere's naturally a left winger. This year he's playing his right side and he's thriving in it. I think it's a little bit of a comfortability thing. Panarin's always played his off wing. I think all guys are different. Guys that don't have like blazing speed might like playing the off wing better because they can pull up when they get in the zone and kind of create.
Great call.
But if you're a faster player like a Kreider, who would only benefit on his left side essentially because he's blazing down that left side, burning a defenseman and ripping a shot, I think it's more beneficial for him to be on his forehand than like trying to power move on his backhand to the net because that's not really his game. So there's certain things like I was not, not in college, I wasn't the fastest, but when I was younger, I was one of the faster guys and I always liked playing right wing. And part of that was because when I was skating up the ice and even receiving the pass in the breakout, my hips were open to the rest of the ice and my face was facing basically the entire ice as opposed to catching it on my backhand and having that like blind side, north of the ice.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
So for me, it was always like whichever side I was on, I felt a little bit more comfortable. And then the goalies I talked to, they always say, at least the normal goalies, not the southpaw goalies, they always say they have a harder time facing lefties because the hardest place for them to make a save is the low blocker. So when you're a lefty coming in on a goalie, it's kind of easy to go across your body and go low blocker. Whereas a righty, you're kind of going across your body glove side, easier for them to react and make a save. So I think, best goal scorer in our generation right now is, this generation is Austin Matthews.
This generation, you dumb.
Yeah. I corrected myself. I'm not saying like, obviously there are some elite goal scorers that are righties like Pasternak, Stamkos, Tage Thompson, those guys are right-handed shots. But from a goalie's perspective, it's interesting that like low blocker is the hardest spot for them to get. And I think just the righty-lefty thing, like, it's funny, Dan, when you were saying the power play thing, my junior year of high school, I played for the Metro Moose in the MJHL, Eastern, whatever, Junior B League. And our power play units were split into two. It was not a power play one, power play two. It was a righty unit, lefty unit. We ran one unit on the right side, one unit on the left side. We had 5 righties, 5 lefties, and it was like different drawn up plays for each unit. And that was the first time I'd ever experienced that. So like our go-to play was, like you said, there'd be like a guy in the half wall, the guy running the point. It was kind of like a 1-3-1 vibe.
Yeah.
And I played the half wall, so I'd get the puck to the point. The guy at the point would walk the middle, then kick it back to me on the wall.
Yep.
I'd send it down to the goal line, and the guy at the point would actually skate all the way into the back door.
Yes.
And the guy playing the bumper would create a diversion, so we'd have a backdoor tap into the guy in the point. It was like a crazy play that we ran that worked more than it didn't. And it was like so weird that it was all you can't really make that play with a lefty out there. Like, you need that kind of backdoor tap in. So it was that was just an interesting point that you brought up.
Dude,
like,
that's sick.
It's not something I think about normally,
Yeah. No, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, no, it was a cool comment because I played center most of my life and I never cared. I always knew what hand everyone was, obviously, because you're trying to make the pass in the right place, but I never cared as a forward. I was never like, oh, I want my right wing here and my left wing here. I was like, whatever or two righties, 2 lefties, I don't care.
Yeah, I think to Johnny's point, it obviously differs on what the type of player is and how they're comfortable. And as long as the player is comfortable in said position, I think it doesn't matter.
Yep.
But it's an interesting discussion point because, I do think there are times where an injury happens. And I mean, man, you can have a all-star caliber, let's talk defense specifically, an all-star caliber defenseman who plays as a right shot, plays on the right side, and because of an injury or something, they have to get moved to the left, and they're a very different player.
Yeah.
It's I think it's a thing, and it's very, very interesting to see.
Well, face-offs especially too.
Oh my God, yeah.
So right now, the Rangers' fourth line, Brodzinski and Gaudreau, are both, I guess, natural centers, and depending on what side of the ice the face-off is, that's who's taking the draw.
Yep.
So when Brodzinski's on his strong side, he's taking it, and he's playing center. And when Gaudreau's on his strong side, he's taking it, and he's playing center. So they're like this interchangeable kind of thing now. But what was I going to say? Dan, you just said something that that triggered something in my mind.
Oh,
Are you guys weird like that where if you see one guy play one time, you can like remember how they shoot?
Dude,
I like
yes.
have that ability. It's
absolutely.
like, kind of crazy.
and like where they want it, like
Yeah.
because I have a big passer. Like I love being like, oh, he, it's if I leave it way behind him, he's getting it here. Or they like it up. I always love that shit.
It's crazy.
I have a face-off tangent, and then we can go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody, I mean, I imagine most people listening played or watch hockey a lot, but when you're taking that face-off on your backhand, that's what Johnny's talking about the strong side. I turn my hand over. I'm a lefty. Turn my
Make
hand
sure you're
over,
talking into your mic.
snap it back. When when I'm trying to take it on the forehand, you're trying to get all the way around, and it's way harder. Why don't we just turn my hold my stick
Bonino does
like
that.
a righty?
Bonino does that.
Oh, really? Yeah, like I don't understand how
Bonino-
that didn't become a thing. Like that's easier to win. Just do that.
Nick Bonino does that. Nico Sturm does that. I think he said he got it from, is it Mark Ritchie?
Mark Recchi?
No, Ritchie.
Oh, I was like,
RICCI.
Yeah, I think it is Richie.
Remember that name in San Jose? I think.
yep.
So yeah, Bonino would like. It's a question I asked him about earlier in the year when he was with the Rangers. He would like be on his backhand, but flip his hand, and it's like his forehand
Mike,
was like
yeah.
turned the wrong way.
Mike
Yeah.
Ricci.
but it's
Mike
like
Ritchie. What'd I say? Nick.
Mark. You were very close.
Damn, that's my bad. But yeah, if you watch Nick Bonino take a face off, or Mika was doing it a little bit this year.
Yep.
Or Ziba as
Yeah.
he's called on the show. But no, it's a good point, Chris. And I've seen NHL players start to do it now.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see if that becomes more popular because it just seems like such an if you're a good face-off guy, meaning you've got good reactions and instincts. I'm like, just turn your.
And it's not like you're losing that much. I mean, guys change their grip already.
Yeah.
You're going to be futzing with your stick. Why not just get the best version
Especially
of your
D-zone,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
just rip it back, dude.
Yeah, I like it. All right, well, that's the mailbag. Awesome questions. Huge shout out to the fans and the folks who sent some in. We're going to get geared up here. This episode's coming out Monday. So, like I said, last week of playoffs here. Crazy stuff. Johnny, you got any closing thoughts for us?
No, really fun. Always
Always
love
a
being on
pleasure.
here.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for being 20 minutes late and telling me it was only going to be 30 minutes long. I love you guys. And yeah, that's all I got.
Absolute blast, dude. We love you too. Yeah, let's get fired up, folks. Good times.
Hell yeah, skate hard.